Okay. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining in again today. If you are here, if you are connected, type connected on the screen. Type connected. Uh, Type connected in the chat box if you are with us. If you are watching, type connected. Type connected. Let's know that you are watching. If you are watching, type connected. Type connected. If you are watching, type connected. We're still waiting for others. We're waiting for others. Please let's not waste time. Type connected. If you are online, type connected. Type connected. So we can move on. Type connected. So I can know that you are with us. Type connected. If you are with us, type connected with the link I've shared with you. Type connected. Type connected. Type connected and like the stream. Type connected and like the stream so we can move ahead. Type connected. So I know those who are connected. I need to know those who are connected before we move on. Type connected if you are joining us. Type connected. Type connected if you are joining us. If you have joined. Type connected. Type connected if you are joining us. Type connected. Type connected. I'm still waiting for the other two people that are expected to join us. Still waiting for you guys. One more person. We're waiting for one more person. We're waiting for one more person to join. We're waiting for one more person to join. One more person to join. All right. We're waiting for one more person to join us. We're waiting for one more person to join us so that we can continue. Waiting for one more person to join us so we can continue. If you are with us, type connected. If you are with us, type connected. Type connected. Type connected. Let's see that you are with us. Type connected. If you are with us, type connected. If you are with us, type connected so we can move on. If you are with us, type connected. If you are with us, type connected. Okay, great. Great. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. For those that have joined, thank you for joining. And I would not want to waste time. So we'll go straight to today's discussion. Last week we talked about OOP concept. We talked about clean architecture. We talked about clean code. We talked about clean code, and then greenfield development, which has to do with a new project, building stuff from scratch, and all that. And then we move on to discussing Scrum. Scrum, which has to do with taking part in a project, discussing the project for agile development. I talk about sprint, which is like a 2-week development period or window. We also have PI planning, where we do performance index in a quarter and plan for what needs to be achieved within a quarter. We talk about daily stand-up meetings on progress for individual. We look at sprint planning, which is the goals and tasks for the sprint. And then we have sprint review, which is the kind of a review that is done at the end of the 2 weeks period. Then we also discuss solid and keys. Solid, which means a single responsibility. Open and close, that is you must be open for addition, but close for modification. Then we also have like a list curve interface, which is a kind of interface design where you have a dependency injection. We also talk about keys, which means to keep it simple, stupid. That is, your class should not do too much thing. It should be very clean. It should not contain too many codes. So it should be really, really simple. Keep it really simple. All right. Having done that, then we moved over to front end, which is the web. We are looking at web design. We are looking at front end, which is web, where I discuss a different type of front end. We have the web, we have the mobile, we have the console, and many other output streams. Our focus for now will be for HTML. Our focus is now on HTML. Our focus is on HTML. Our focus is on HTML. Our focus is on HTML. For the HTML, I explained that that's what is used to create web pages, web front end, and interaction. And then we look at writing HTML document. I told us that HTML uses tags to render different type of portion of your screen. Just look at your word processor, your Word document, Microsoft Word, where you have to type, you have to paragraph, you have to make content bold, you have to italize, you have to underline and all that. So we have the same thing with HTML. And the root tag, every command you write for the HTML or the web page is called tags. So it's a declarative programming. We call it declarative programming. Unlike the backend, we are using that we are writing the code one by one. Here, you have like a structured data structure. So that is why it is called declarative. So we have the HTML. And from the HTML, we have the header, the HTML, which is the root document. Every other thing falls inside the HTML tag. Then we look at header. The header provides the meta information, that is detailed information about the document. For example, who is the author of this document? When was it created? what are the styles that need to be applied to make it beautiful. Some of those things are hidden in the header, just like you are sending email where you have subject and title. So those are the header of the document, and the body of your email, that's where you write the actual message. So we have the HTML, we have the header, we have the body. Now every other stuff cannot be inside the body. I also talk about footer. So for the header, one of the tags we look at is title. The title tag, anything you write inside the title tag is what is going to be displayed as the address bar when you minimize the document or when you are trying to browse. For example, on your page now, if you mouse up, you will see that YouTube is what is displayed on your header tag. So we look at P for paragraph, H1 for making the bold weighted text. That's the highest. We have H2, we have H3. Then regular bold is B. Then to form a paragraph, you use the P, and then inside the paragraph, if you want to break line, you want something to jump to the next line, then you can use the BL tag, which means to break, to get to the next line. In Java, you could have probably write LN, which formats the document to the next line, or use the system.out.print line. So that is good. Thank you for the new guys that are joining us. Okay, so that is that. So today we want to complete the HTML web. Today we'll be looking at adding more processor to it. We'll be looking at how we have forms. How is the HTML displayed that you have form? We will look at buttons. We'll look at buttons, and then we'll look at text field. So let's quickly dive into that. Let's dive into that. So today we want to look at what we call controls. Controls are the inputs, and then what you click to trigger something. So we look at control. So open a new file. If you are just listening and you don't have system with you, keep listening, and then we'll get back to you. So now open a new file. Open a new file. Let's call it control.html. Open a new file and save it as control.html. So I'm going to save this one. I will call it control. I'll call it control.html. So I'll call it control.html. So control.html, that's the name of the file. Now, what do we want to do here? Let's start by declaring, like I said, to create a new web page, you start with HTML the tag, HTML, and then inside the HTML you have your header tag, and then inside the header tag you can have the title tag. The other tag we can have, but we'll leave it at title for now. And the title, let's say button or UI control, user interface control. user interface control. User interface control. So we are going to create something. Here. We want to have the list of name. We want to create, let's say, a chat box. So we want to create a chat box, and then after the header, we have the body. We have the body. Now inside the body, let's go ahead, and the first thing we'll be looking at is the text input. The text input allow you to type something, to type something in. What you can type something in, that's the text input. So we are going to have, let's just say the text input. Text input control, all of them are inside another major tag that is called form. So we have form. Now inside the form, we can now put anything that we want. So now we just want to have a simple chat box, which will have message, and then it will have a button to send the chat. So we want a form. Okay, before we go to chat, maybe we just let's just take a simple control. Let's say we want to collect a name, email address. Let's do a regular email. So we'll just say email form, email sender. So email sender, let's say BL. Now for our email sender, we already have button. So let's say what is the subject of our email. So let's have a text called subject. We have a text called subject, and then where to type the subject, the title of your email. We have input. Then the type of the input. Input is a tag, and the type of the input, let's say, equals to text. Then we close this. Input type equals to text. If you save this, you can go ahead and double click on the file that you have created. If you have saved this, just go ahead, double click on the file that you have created, and it should show in your browser. And when it shows in your browser, you should be seeing something like this. Let's see. We should have something like assets. Okay, document. I'm trying to also look at my own document. So in this document we have control. And inside the web we have let me see, and this users bonus, develop users bonus, ABCD C. I think I'm trying to see develop. Okay, so develop. and then the Bootcamp. Inside the Bootcamp, and then we have web. Inside your web, the control.html, and control.html. If you check that, and I change back to Google Chrome, we should see this on our screen. Just refresh it. Google Chrome, sorry. So you should see this. If you are able to see a button on your page, an email sender, you see email sender. If you are able to see email sender with a text box where you can type something, you can see where you can type something like I'm doing now. Say if I put this, then so if you're able to see my screen and the type, just type scene in the chat box. Scene. Type scene in the chat box to be sure that you are seeing what we are doing. Type scene in the chat box. Type scene in the chat box for us to know that you are seeing, or probably have tried it. If you have tried it, and you have gotten to where we are, type scene on the chat box. Type scene on. Okay, great. Thank you. Scene. That's great. So now that we've done that, the next step is let's try and add. This is called an input tag. That's called an input tag. Let's have, for example, if there is an option for us to select something, let's say, what do you want to talk about? Let's make it an option for us to select something that we want to really talk about. What do you want to talk about? So what do you want to talk about? So let's have another input type and say message options. So here we are going to have what we call a select item, and for select we are going to have a select tag. So we are going to have select tag. We are going to have a select tag. The select allow you to select, provide a list where you can select an option and things like that. So we select, and here after writing the select, you need to put the options there. So options, option tag. We have the option tag, and you can put anything in the option type in the complaint. Say complaints. Say another option. We have let's say for another option, let's say customer services. Let's say another option. Let's call it OP outpatient. OP outpatient. So you can have as many options as you like. So if you save this, you have select and you add those options, and you save it, and you refresh your browser, you should be able to see this again. Let's go and refresh your browser. After you have that and you have saved it, refresh your browser, and you should see this like mine. If you refresh, you will see complaints, and from the complaints you can probably select option, but we want this option to be on the same line, on another line under subject. How do we do that? We just need to put a new line, break there. So let's go ahead and add break to our code. If you go back and you add say you come back to your source code. After subject, we can just put a new line there by putting a break. You put a break that will allow you to separate, whatever stuff that you have to the next line. And you go and refresh this after you have put the break. Once you have put the break and you refresh, you should be able to see this again. Let's see. So once you just post the break, the BR tag that separates everything to a new line, and then if you refresh your browser, you are going to see this. You are going to see this. So that should show us that is how to have a select option. Select option. Maybe before we send the mail, maybe the form also requires us to state whether to state our gender. Let's say our gender is required before we can send the message. So let's go ahead and add gender. So that gender maybe is an option that we just tick instead of selecting, from a list option like this, a drop down menu or drop down option like this. We want the one that we can just check or tick. So because of that, there are two ways to handle it. Let's go back and then we write that code. Let's go back and do that. So you are going to add another tag. You are going to add another tag, and that tag is also called input. So the same input. So here, so we have three types of inputs. We have an input of type text, that will be for text feed. We have input of type when the type is radio. So I'm going to take this and go to another option. Here I'll just say gender. So for gender, I'm going to have a type this, so input type text, so here we'll call it let's say the type is called radio. Radio type means that you can only select one option, and then you have the same name, input type, and your tag inputs can actually have another variable called name. So name equals to, let's say, gender. We call it gender. Now, so your input type is this, and then for this input type, we can have say male, and then we can have another one called female. So let's say on the same line, just separate it. So it's type radio, and then I have a female. So that is gender. So we have input type. So you have input of type radio. The one that allows us to type text, we call it input type text. And the one that will allow us to just pick one option, the type will be radio. The type will be radio. So we don't go back and forth, and we add another type which we call it type checkbox. The type is checkbox, and this checkbox we can have multiple. Let's say okay, we sent gender. Let's say that male type. So for male type, and they want us to check as many options that we want. So male type, so I'll just say male. I'll call it male. Let's have male. So the first one, let's call it rice. You want to eat rice, you eat rice. Checkbox, male. And then we call this let's call this beans, right? Then we have another one, plantain, and call it plantain. So each of this one, let's say it has a value, and the value here we'll put a plantain. So the value here, let's call it beans. For the value of this one, equals to beans in lowercase, and the value for this one equals to rice in lowercase. Now you see different type of input. Now we have an input which is text, type equals to text, that allows us to type text message. Then we have another input type which is called radio. The radio means that we can have several inputs of the same name but different values, of which we can only select one. But for checkbox, it means that we can check at least one between 0 options and everything. We can have multiple options. That's what checkbox represents. So if you save this, and go back to refresh, let's try and save it. Let's try and save this. If you have saved it, just save it and then refresh your browser. Then you will see, okay, you can see that gender. Okay, let me just so we put break tag after gender, so we can have the break tag for, I think it was before this, select. So if we refresh, we will see this. We will see email sender, we will see subject, we will see options where we can select from outpatients, customer service, complaints, or as many things you want to put there. Then we have let's say gender. Now if you look at it, gender, I can only select one gender. For female, I think that spelling is wrong. Female. So for female, you can see that we only have option of either male or female. Now for male, you can see that it's not a circle, it's square. That means it's a checkbox. So for this checkbox, I can say that I want rice and plantain, or I can uncheck this. I say I want beans and plantain. You can see that it's checked. I can remove plantain and I say I want rice and beans, and then I can check everything and say okay, refresh, subject, what to eat, then here customer services, and the gender, male, and then for male I want everything, so I can select everything. I can select everything. So this is we are creating front end now. Don't forget, we are creating front end. We have those tags. Now we can move to something more. Let's write. Let's have something that will make us to write a message. Let's write something that will make us to write a message or to take something more. So for that, let's say actual message. Let's go back to our code. We go back to our code. So here I say let us add something here, and here this time around I want to have a bigger text where I can type a lot of something. Okay, the end of the radio button, I think what I did was to just bring it down. You will see radio, input type radio. This is it, input type radio. For the person I want to see the end, I hope you can see now. So input type radio, then input type this. Here we can also add value, just like we added value to checkbox. We can say value equals to, you can say male, female, or I can just use M to represent male, and then value equals to F for female. Now what this means is that the one that is outside the tag are like the display, and the one that is inside the tag, which is the value, is the value that will actually be sent to the server for processing. Or if you are filling a form now, whatever thing that is a value is what will actually be sent. All right, so let's add let's type our message proper. So there is another input. The input is called text area. So the tag is called text area. Just like we can have we will have a name for it. so that we can use the name when we are processing it. So here I will just say message. That's the name of the text area. And if you save it, and you refresh your browser, this is what you should see. If you save it now and refresh your browser, you should be able to see this. You will see a text box under this. You will see a text box under this, under the other options that we have. But this may not look too nice for us. It may not look too neat. If you look at it now, that the text area where we can type, you can see that box. It doesn't look like our regular email or message area. Even if you look at the text box for YouTube, is still longer than our own. So we can increase this by going back to the text box attributes and add other attributes to it. This attribute, it has an attribute called column and then another attribute called rows. The rows is number of rows that you are going to have for that text box, and the column means that is the width. So the more the number of rows, the higher the height. The more the number of rows, the higher the height of it. So the higher the height. So let's take a look at this. So we have the text area, and for the text area we have 4 columns. We have calls, and we'll put value there. For rows, we have rows. Now let's say we want to have let's increase the width. We can increase the width by increasing the number of columns. I think the default for columns is 40, and the default for row is 4. This is 40 and 4. This is 40 and 4, but we want to increase that. Let's say we are having columns to be 200. Let's say the columns is 200, and the rows we want to increase this one to, let's say, to 8. Let's look at how this looks like, and change the columns calls to 200 and change the rows to 8. Now when you are doing your own project, depending on how you want it to look on the screen, you can adjust those attributes as you want. You can adjust as you want. Okay, so that said, let's refresh. If you refresh now, okay, on my own screen is too wide. Let's let me show us what I'm seeing so that we're on the same page. So we have this. So if you check your screen, you will see that the text box height is better now. However, the width is far to the corner. So what do we do is that let's change the columns. The columns is what represent how wide it is. We can change the columns and change it to, say, 100. If we change the columns to 100, what do we have? We have something like this, which looks much better. This looks much better. So we can try that. That looks much better. So let me see. We can, for example, I can change this one from 100 to 75 just to play around, and fit into what I want. So with 75, for me, this is better. This looks better for me. So the next thing is that after we have done that, we need to submit it. Maybe add a button, and we'll call the button send message, or call it subscribe, wherever. So we will add a button here. So the button is also an input. The button is also an input. You can have an input type button, and you can also have a button tag. So we can have input type button. If you go back to this, you can have, let's go back and create another input, and then here we can say input type equals to button. We have checkbox before now, so this input type equals to button, and then we can now say value maybe equals to what will be the value for this? We can just say value equals to text button. Now we have another input type that is button, but instead of calling it button, we call it submit. Input type equals to submit. You see the button too, and then say value equals to submit or send message. Then there is another type of button. So instead of calling it input, we can just call it button. There's a button tag, and within the button tag you can put the label there. For example, I can say, okay, for this button the name is subscribe, and then within the tag I can put subscribe button. So subscribe. So we have different type of button now. Input type button, value is text button. Input type submit. The difference between all of them is that the one that the type is submit, we actually send the form. It will attempt to submit the form to whatever server that we want. Yes, your checkbox, Shola, your checkbox is correct. Your checkbox will allow you to check more than one value. That's why it is called checkbox. The checkbox allow for multiple values. Multiple options to be checked. However, the radio button will only allow one item per time. So what your checkbox is doing for you is correct. So what your checkbox is doing for you is very, very correct. What your checkbox is doing for you is very correct. It's very correct. It's very correct. Very correct. Very, 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 very correct. Okay, so if we try to refresh our screen again, we should see the new buttons. We should see the new buttons. We should see the new buttons showing. So you can see the text button, the send message, the subscribe button. You see those buttons. You see those buttons. All right, but I don't like the way they are displayed. So how do we rectify this? We just put a break tag, a BR tag. Let's put a BR tag after this. Let's put a BR tag. So after the input area, we can add a BR tag. Let's add a BR tag so that okay. So with the BR tag, it will jump the control to the next line. So save it. If you save it, we can even put all these buttons on the same line. They will appear, together, So just put them on the same line. You add the BR tag, and then refresh your screen again. Refresh your screen again. You should be able to see that the buttons have now aligned below. They have now aligned below. You can see the text button, you can see send message, you can see subscribe. You can see subscribe. So that makes it look good. That makes it look better than before. Looks good and better than before. Okay. Yes. Makes it look good and better than before. Makes it look good and better than before. So let's move on. Let's move on. Let's move on. Let's move on. If you are still with us, so far, right connected. If you are still with us, right connected. If you are still with us, type connected. If you are still with us, type connected. Now that we have that, the next thing that I want us to take a look at is that we have all the things that we need to build different front end, whether we are writing a calculator, whether we are writing an email message, whether we are doing a data capturing system, whatever thing that we are doing, we can use all the controls, tags that we have learned so far to capture them. We can use all that to capture them, right? So having said that, we have looked at select box, we have looked at radio box or radio buttons, we have looked at option checkbox. What else? I think we are good to go with this. But one more thing is that in the traditional server submission, we can add something more to the server, and if you add something more to this form here, let's go to the form. Let's go to the form. Let's go to the form. Let's go to the form here. So if you go back to the form now, we can we can say this form has another tag called action. Traditional server submission, you will have an action, and the action is actually where the form will be submitted to. So action, if I say action equals to server, or say patient.com, then it means that all the data that we have input on the form we go to where? We go to patients patients.com. If we say okay, it goes to, let's just call it instead of patients, we can say okay, let it go to relative path. Let's go to say processor.html. Then it goes to processor.html. It goes to processor.html. So that's good. So let's quickly take a look at a few other ones before we wrap it up for today on HTML for day 12, and for day 13 we will be looking at dynamic web. All we are doing now is static web, because the form does not submit to anything and the form does not interact with us. It doesn't give us information, it doesn't give us reply. So that's why it is called static web. What we are doing is static web. All our data will be rendered statically. That is, we already have the data. So let's create another one. I want us to look at data representation. So data representation. So create a new file and call that file, let's call it data.html. Create a new file in your web folder and call it what? data.html, because we want to do with data presentation. So we call it data.html. So by text area, do you mean text area? The text area, if you look at your if you go back and look at your web, if you refresh it, do you mean the text area, the code for the text area? If it is, let's start with that. For the text area, this is the code for the text area. I guess that is what you are looking for. So look at the code for text area. It has, the tag is called text area. And then we have a name for it. We call it message. You can call it anything depending on what you want to capture in the text area. And then it has two major attributes, which we call the columns, calls, and rows. The columns represent the width of the text area, or also, and then the rows represent the height of the text area. The text area, the calls of text area represents the width, while the rows represent the height. All right. Unless you have seen the code now, so that we can move on. Okay, so we move to the next one, which is I asked us to create a file called data.html. Data.html. From the data.html, let's see. From data.html, we have yes, that's correct. Yeah, that is correct. So let's look at our file. Create a data.html file, and as usual, we'll start by putting our tag inside. So create your HTML tag. Create HTML tag for it. Create HTML tag for it. Create HTML tag for it. So we have HTML, and then we have a header. Right, we have header, and then inside the header we have title, and the title of our new page, we want to call it data presentation. Data presentation. And then also we have the body. We have the body. Now for the body, we are going to have our data presentation. So I'll just have one H tag. There is a tag called center. You just centralize whatever thing you put within that center. That's the center tag. So inside the center tag, if I put say h1 tag inside its center tag, and it's called the data presentation, that will put it at the center, and you can put other things at the center. So the first thing we look at for data presentation, let's look at on order list. So let me have a p tag, and I will say I will use h2, and I will call it, in fact, let's do like this. So data presentation, and then I will use subtitle. My subtitle, I will use h2 as subtitle, h2, and we'll call it unordered list. Now a list for data presentation is a way of presenting data in a bullet, in a bullet point. So you can, it starts with a tag called ul, which means unordered list. Ordered list, let's say ordered, or order and unordered list. So here, let's start with unordered. Unordered is ul, unordered list is ul, and then the item within the ul is this. So we can say li. It has a tag called li. Okay, great. Thank you, Juliet, that you are still connected. Okay, you all. So we have a li here for your list. We can say, what can we put in the bullet points? Okay, let's just say we have a task schedule. Go to market. We have another one, say airline, and say bake cake. Let's say we have another one and say then do programming assignments. Then say last one but not the least, say respond to social media comments. So you can see this is another list. For other lists, all we just need to do is to say when something is of a prior importance, we just use OL for other list. OL. So OL. Now, so if you do this, and then we have let's say instead of go to market, we can just leave it that way and see how both of them come out. Let's see how both of them come out. Let's see how both of them come out. So we can go back and refresh our browser. Let's say take a look at how it looks like. Let's take a look of how it looks like. So if we refresh the browser, okay, this time around is data.html. If you look at the screen now for the ordered and unordered list, the unordered list come as bullet points, and because I use the center attribute, you can see the center attribute, it brings my headings to the center of the page, and you see that this page looks cleaner than the other one that we have. Then so the unordered list has bullet points. The ordered list has what? Numbered. So it is numbered. As for so you see that one is numbered, the other one is not numbered. So the next one we are going to take a look at, is at we'll look at table. Table. Let's go and look at tables. So I'm going to have another header here, say another H2, and I call it tables and table data. Tables and table data. So if you look at table allows us to present data in a spreadsheet like. Tables allow us to present data in a spreadsheet like. That's number one. It can also allow us to arrange the inputs, the layout of the page. We can use table although using table for layout is discouraged nowadays. However, we can just use focus on using tables to present data. For every table comes with what we call table tag, just like you have HTML, because it's a document on its own. So we have a table tag which must end with the table tag. We have a table tag which should end with the same table tag. We have a table tag. So after the table tag, I think I'm not projecting. So let's so we have a table tag here, just under our ordered list. So we are creating tables now. So we have a table tag, table and table data, table and table data, table and table data, table and table data. We are going to close the class today from this table. In our next class, we'll be dealing with CSS and JavaScript. We'll take a look at CSS and JavaScript proper. We also not spend much time on CSS because they are the thing that you can read up. You can read that off. So I'll just take a look at the essentials ones. So for table, we have table, which ends with the table data. And just like HTML document, which has the header and footer, table also has header. So, but the most important is that after the table, you have what we call TR. TR means table row. TR means table row, and TD means table column, table data, table cell, table data, table cell. That is what TD means. So a table has head too. So we can have a table head, which is called T-head, and then it has a table body, which is the T body, and then we have a table footer, which is called T foot. So we have the head, we have the body, we have the head, we have the body, we have the foot of the table. Now the table itself can be divided into rows and columns. The rows are the TR tag. The rows are the TR tag. TR tag for the rows. TR tag for the rows. TR tag. TR tags for the rows. TR tag for the rows. TR tag for the rows, and TD tags for the columns. TR tag for the rows, and then TD tag for the columns. But if it is in head, and the columns in the head are called TH. The TH is for header. So let's take a look at it. Let's create a simple table, and in the simple table we want to display let's say exam results. So let's start with exam results. So here I want to have TR. Let's start with this now. So we have the first one, the rows. Most times your your header will have a single row and multiple columns. If it has more than a single row, that means maybe you want to have a header and sub header. So let's do with a single row header. So we have th for the columns. Depending on the number of columns, we have a th. Okay, th and then tr. That is complete the row. That completes the row. So we have a th within the t head. We have the th, tr, and the th represent the columns. But how many columns do we want to have? Let's say we want to have the student name, or let's start with matric number, student number followed by student name, and then let's say we have a result for 3 subjects. Result for 3 subjects. And then maybe average, cumulative average, or total marks. Say total marks. Result that gives us about 4 columns. So we have th 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and each of them we have number, student number. Then the next one we have a name. So this number, student number, name. After the name, let's say I have a fixes. After fixes, mathematics, and then the last one, English. Okay, we have to add total. So let's look at it. This can't contain the screen, so I will just break it down like this, and total. And total. So we have tr, th. This is fixes. This is name or student name. So student name, fixes, mathematics, English, then total. So that is in the head. If you go ahead and refresh your page, I think you should see something like this. If you see the header tags, you should see the table data. You see the table data. You see the table header rather, which are in bold. Now let's do another one. Let's go ahead and fill this data. So I'm going to have I'll go into the body, depending on the number of rows that we have. Let's say we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we are going to have tr, so we're going to have this tr, say tr, and then we have 6 columns. So if we go with 6 columns, we are going to have student name, say td, Don't forget, for the body we use TD, for the header we use TH. All right, so we have TD, and I have 6 column, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the first one is Festus Udoka. The student number is 90190,556. So this the student name, Festus Udoka, and then in fixes, say in the we have 76, we have 81, we have 94, and what will be the total? So here that is 160 plus 81, that's 241. 241, that's the total. So let's try for another student. This 241. I hope we can see the screen. I hope we can see the screen well. Let's do like this. Okay, so we should be able to see this way. I'm just going to replicate this and have 3 more students. 2, 3. This is 557. This is 558. And Kehani Abu Bakar. Here we have Uche. Let's have Uche Johanna. Okay, so we'll just let's just play around with this. I'm going to, this is 66 minus 66 minus 9 that would be 19 from 8172. 19. This will be 2. So this should be 222. I think you should complete the rest. Klani Abubakar and things like that. So if we save it and we refresh, we should have something like this again. We should have where are we? Let's just refresh. Let's refresh. Let's refresh here, and then we should be able to see our table this time around. So let me see if you are seeing what I'm seeing. If it's not coming up, just refresh your screen and look at how it is. That is table data. That's how to represent in the table. So you can see how our data gets formatted on the table. All right, so this is it. We can see our table represented. Let's just close from here today. So we've covered the table and things like that. Just as we round up, you may be wondering if you like it. There are times that we want the presentation to look like this. There are times that we want it to really look like Excel sheets. And if you want to do that, all you need to do is to go back to the table definition, and put the cell. There is other one, there is cell spacing. We have cell spacing, cell padding. There's a cell spacing equals to this, and then we can say border. Let's take a look at that. And we close from there. So if you see it, there is cell spacing equals to 5. We can say table border, and we can say border here. I don't want it to look big. I can just say 1. Say border is 1. So if you do that and you refresh, you're going to have your table border. You're going to have your table border. So border, let's say 1px t border, or just border. I think for me, I use border. Before we finish it, let me see one more thing to be added. Let's see, we can have one more thing added to the table. Otherwise, we can just end it there. So we have this okay, let me see what I can add to this table, and we close from here. Looks like we have how many minutes left now? Let's see how many minutes left. Okay. Okay, we have 1 minute left. So in this last 1 minute, We can take a recap. We look at a list. We look at another list. We look at form controls today. Here we can just add border to the table. So you have border tag to the table. We should have this for the table. So we just add another control here called border, and that will show border around the table. I'll push the source code so we can close. So today we look at the forms, we look at inputs, we look at different type of inputs, we look at buttons, and we move on to data presentation. For our next class, we're going to continue with CSS and bot and JavaScript. Thank you so much for connecting. Thank you so much for